Typically, when you do a book signing, you just sign books, but they have set this one up to be talks and signings. So this is a little new. And my publicist, Yona, she is with Simon & Schuster, so she works with Atria Books, which is kind of, they specialize in publishing African American books. And so she picks all the different locations. And I apologize for the mix-up tonight. I was just as surprised as you all were. I kept seeing this little cute cafe being promoted. I typically don't do events in the church because we talk about sex and stuff. And so, you know, I gotta tone it down a little bit. I know we have some fornication in the building, and we don't want to feel the wrath or a sense of guilt. And so I was like, I'm not going to preach a sermon even though I'm in a church. Now, does everybody have the book? Awesome. I will just speak to you for 10, 15 minutes, and then I would love to take some questions from you. Can you hear me okay? This book really came to me just, I guess I would say it was divinely just dropped on my spirit as I was looking every day and seeing all the different celebrity couples breaking up. So I just saw all these cheating scandals, all these iconic couples who were just kind of falling apart. 8 years of marriage, 10 years, 15 years. And I was like, wow. And I looked at my own relationship and I said, you know, here I am, could be considered a millennial. I don't consider myself that, but a lot of my clients and some people who come to my seminars, they consider me a baby. And I say, I have figured it out. My wife and I, 100% happy marriage. And it's been that way for the last decade. The first 2 years were tough and we learned, but I went on a process, a journey of growth and getting new knowledge. And I rewrote my chemistry, my DNA. Everything that I had learned about love and relationships, I had to unlearn and then learn new things. And then when I took action on that new knowledge, and I started to love my wife selflessly, and I started to lead in love. Because a lot of times we go into a situation and we are waiting for this person to please us. We're waiting for this person to love us so that we can receive the love. But I decided, and I will tell you it was painful, because it's so hard for us as humans to be selfless. But I decided that I would create like a love calendar. And I put on there, Monday night, run Cherie's bath water. Tuesday night, rub Cherie's feet. Wednesday, write a poem. Thursday, for nothing gift. Friday, date night. And so I created this love calendar, and my idea was to every day do something to show her that I loved her. And it was so painful as I'm running bath water and I got candles out, and she comes and she's like, oh my goodness. And you know, she just receiving, and for the first couple of weeks she was receiving and was not reciprocating. I'm like, this is not a honeymoon now. Like, where's the reciprocation? And so I'm thinking like, okay, when I'm gonna get my bath ran? You know, when my feet getting rubbed? But I had to catch myself and I said, look, you have to be selfless. You gotta lead in love. And I believe that is a man's position, because we get complacent easier as men because we have a king mentality. And I was reading the book of Esther. Any of y'all ever read the book of Esther? Yes. So in the book of Esther, in the Holy Bible, if y'all don't know who I'm talking about when I say Esther, for those of you who haven't read it, you know, the king, they had matchmakers that would go out and look for women and look for virgins. And so they'll see you walking through the court and say, you look good, come here, king wants you. And so now they bring you in, and for a whole 12 months, 6 months, you just juices and berries, just facials, all the oil. Next 6 months, now it's oil and perfume. And now 12 months you being prepared for the king. And then you get your one night with him. You get a night with the king. He receives you, your body, and then you got to go back to the queen's court where all of the women are held. And you don't come back until the king calls for you. And Esther must have did something now, you know. But king hey, keep on coming. Esther, what you need? But I thought about that and I said, we are, as men, we have that same mentality today. That if you will cook every day, we're going to sit down and eat. If you're going to massage feet, if you're going to loan money, if you're going to, you know, do all of this, we're going to just receive. And you might get a thank you. You might get a thank you, but it's not really going to be often that a man is going to outlove a woman. A woman's love is so strong. And so I started leading in love. And when I did this, after about a couple weeks, I had kind of healed my wife, so to speak. Because you go through so much in life that when you finally start receiving love, you just receive it. It's like ointment on a wound. But then after your love bucket is full, now you have abundance and you want to give back. And when she started to reciprocate that love, it knocked my socks off. I was like, wow. I'm like, man, this woman loved me. I'm like, man, do I need to yell at her or curse her out just to get her to calm down, like to make her mad? The love became so pure and so real that it started to change my life. So arguments were no more because we learned how to communicate. And I led through that communication. Now there was no worries of cheating and who's going to be lying and cheating. And it just became pure. And the disagreements got smaller and smaller, fewer and fewer, and we knew how to work through them. But because we were selfless, we were able to sit and share opinions, thoughts, feelings, and then both of us get up from that discussion, move forward, and take action. And so that is where I learned that love does not have to be a fight. It does not have to be knock down, drag out, break up to make up. And so when I sat down to write Make It Work, the book seems to be doing, pretty decent. I talked to my publisher and they told me, it's doing good by their standards. And I tell you the truth, and I've got a lot of great feedback from it. Some people have wrote me and they say, hey, I got the audio book. I'm on the 3rd time listening to it. And the audio book is 7 hours. Some people, one lady told me, Tony, I started reading the book and I called out of work the next day so I could stay home and finish reading. So I've just been receiving some amazing feedback, and I tell you what, I wrote it from my heart. I wrote it from real life. I did not have to do any research outside of my life and my work as a professional relationship coach for the last decade. So I took everything that I've learned from coaching and reading thousands of stories and my own experiences, and I sat down and I wrote, and I finished the book in about 5 or 6 days. And I just wrote one draft. I sent it to an editor, like my personal editor, to go through it. We sent it to the publisher. The publisher went through it, and I always heard nightmares about this part of it, that you have to be willing to just kind of give up your dream, and that they're going to rip it to shreds. They didn't have anything to tell me. Tony, this is a complete book. This is the most professional work that we've seen. And they came back with the grammatical things that they could find, and that's when I really learned the importance of education. I was like, man, these people are another level of smart. I saw a word confidant, and I did not know that if you're talking about a woman, it has an E at the end of it. You talk about a man, it doesn't have the E. I was like, wow. And they had words that, when you don't know all the grammar rules, you read something, you like, that's wrong. I caught them. And then you find out, no, that's correct grammar. You just don't know. And so we published a book, and I say that to say that it was divinely inspired. I don't write on my own. I do not believe that I am my own. I feel that I am a vessel. And I say that because if I wasn't, I believe that every 34-year-old man would be thinking and behaving the same way. And every man in general. And for that not to be the case, I know I had to surrender to something greater than me. And so I say that I want you to keep your mind open as you read it. Read it with an open mind and an open heart. Get your highlighter, take notes. Try to read it twice if you can. If you're in a relationship, every chapter, make sure your partner reads the chapter and then you discuss it. If you are single, then make sure you really, really read it, because this is your ounce of prevention. And for those of you in a relationship, it can be your pound of cure. Whether that means making it work or making it work as co-parents or recent divorcees. I believe in making it work, but I do not believe that marriage is a death sentence. Marriage should be freedom, not prison. And so if it's too much abuse, or it's too toxic, too much cheating, too much lying, and someone doesn't want to grow, you have to be able to let go so they can grow. And that also is another form of making it work. Self-love. Now I want to open up for questions and take questions about 15, 20 minutes.
What does a single person get from your book? I hear you talking about marriage.
For a single person, this is your ounce of prevention. And what I mean by that is, in the first 2 chapters, we're talking about healing. So when you look over your life, and how many singles in here? When you look over your life, you're going to see that you learn a lot of lies about love. That you saw things from your parents and in your neighborhood that you said, this is love. This is a relationship. And it maybe was the woman who stuck by her abusive man for 30, 40 years. And you told yourself this is a relationship. Maybe it was the couple who broke up every 6 months. When you look over your life and you identify those lessons, and then you get new knowledge, which I share in the other 20 chapters, and then you identify the pain points in your life. Think about the daddy wounds that you have and what his presence or his absence did to you. What did it teach you? What didn't it teach you? What did he teach you? What didn't he teach you? Think about your mother, especially women. I see so many women who have mom hurt, to where mom becomes jealous, combative, condescending, rude, nasty, almost in competition. And mom said some things and did some things because of the pain that she was experiencing from your father. And you didn't even realize that's why she said some of the things she said. But you took that with you. And then what did you see her do? Did you see her lie on her back and become a floor mat? Or did you see her stand as an independent and be unwilling to become an interdependent? So it made you overly independent and pushing every good man away, sabotaging your relationships because your mom never allowed a man in her life. So for the singles, you're going to be able to identify the pain points and address them, because you cannot heal it unless you admit that you feel it. And then you're going to learn everything that love should be, at least the core foundation. And with that knowledge, as they say, knowledge is power. Knowledge is only power because knowledge brings confidence. And so with that knowledge, you become a new person. And when you become a new person, you attract new people. And so that's for all of you singles. So many people ask me, because it says make it work, people say, well, can a single read it? And I think for us as a whole, just as people, we have to expand our mind to where if you see a documentary on the Ku Klux Klan, that's for you. If you see a documentary on a geologist, that's for you. That no knowledge is bad knowledge. That if you come in contact with a book that you have that an atheist wrote, that's for you. Because knowledge, when you expand your mind to a new dimension, it never returns to the same form. Oliver Wendell Holmes said that. So sit and read the book and get it and understand this. Some of y'all, my parents' age. Jesus was crucified and rose again at 33. So, although I may be younger than you, please don't think that there's no lessons in the book for you. I learned lessons from my 4-year-old son. My 11-year-old son is one of my life coaches. And when I tell you some of the things that boy has said to me, has floored me, and I'm talking to him about, my life, and he really is being used to speak into my life at 11 years old. And he will say things like, Dad, you have to value yourself more. You have to know your worth. You have to believe in yourself. And I'm like, what in the world? And I'm sitting there like, yes, I needed that. I need it. I'm raising my speaking fee. I'm raising my coaching fee. I'm like, wow. So I want you to think about it. Any other questions? Just raise your hand so I can see.
Okay, so you always say, like, when you say, like, leave the X and all that kind of stuff, everybody looks at Q&A. So it's like, when you say the part, like, he don't want you, or when you say, like, move on, like, I feel like I have to, like, watch the stories, rewatch the stories. I kind of get mad, like, you've been taking long, and, like, you've been doing this, so you really haven't been doing it. Because it's like therapy. It's like, no, I got to look at it. I got to see. I got to keep putting that in my brain, like, let it go. That's how I get through. But I'm like, but for real, like, what, and I see people asking you that question, like, what about those real weak moments? Like, and I think one time somebody was like, they can't stop thinking about them. And you just say, like, let it go. Like, can you elaborate and kind of, like, explain, like, the let it go part of that?
You know what, though? I think it was Albert Einstein who said, make it as simple as possible, but not one bit simpler. So I think if you can reduce all of your thoughts down to let it go, and just understand that all that means is putting one foot in front of the other. The same thing for if you're in a relationship and the answer is do the work. You either let it go or you do the work. And so what that means is you have to just put one foot in front of the other. And so if you're trying to let something go, or if you're trying to do the work, being here tonight is a step. Now the next thing, reading a book is a step. After you read this book, you're going to be referred to another book by Amazon. That's a step. Now you say, I need a coaching session. That's a step. Now you say, I see a seminar coming up. That's a step. So by you just putting one foot in front of the other, all of these steps can be summed up to let it go. And a lot of times we want like this dissertation about letting it go. We want this long, drawn out explanation of how and why we should let it go. When sometimes you just, like Nike, just have to do it. And then what you realize is like, wow, I took this step and here I am. I'm not dying. I'm not answering the phone calls. I'm not dying. I'm not calling back. I'm not dying. I read a book. I'm not dying. I went to a book signing. I'm not dying. So now you realize that you have all of the strength that you need to do whatever it takes you need to do. And the same thing when it's on the other side, when you need to make it work. And you say, you know what? I'm sidestepping power struggles. I'm not getting into arguments. I'm sitting down and I'm having a discussion. I'm not yelling. I'm not cursing. I'm not storming off. I'm not going to bed mad. I'm not keeping count of how much my spouse is doing for me and not doing for me, but I'm loving selflessly. And so with everything that you do, and then you look and you realize, I'm not dying. This is not killing me. Like, wow. And it just becomes easier and easier. Any other questions?
What inspired you as a black man to get into this type of coaching?
You know, I heard a man talk one time at the school, I believe, and he said he had no legs. And he was in the service. And he said at the end of his talk, he said, don't run away from your purpose until you lose your legs. Like, don't keep running to the point you have to lose your legs to realize what you have to do. And it was me coming to the conclusion that I needed to change. Because when I found love, I was not ready for that love. And when my wife showed me that she would not stay and she would not reinforce my brokenness, that she would not babysit me, and that I would have to watch her back walking out the door, that is when I had to make a decision. That if I want this woman, and I want to be in my child's life, who was born 2.5 months early, and he was in the intensive care unit when my wife left me 2 months into marriage. So by her doing that, and she did it because I was going back to the street life with my cousins. And she had told me, if you want to be with me, you have to have a legal lifestyle. And when I married her, I thought she was trapped because she's a Christian. And a lot of times Christians become trapped by marriage because we feel like that God can't forgive you for a divorce. So I decided to use that against her. So I thought I could renege on my word and go back to the streets, and she wasn't going anywhere because she was raised in the church. And she showed me God loved me. God gonna love me through divorcing you. And if it's a sin, sin is a sin, and he'll forgive me for lying, he'll forgive me for divorce. Because it's all the same to him. And so she kind of took that approach. And I thought I had a trap too, because her parents from Jamaica. So you come from another country, you coming over here about business. You ain't coming over here to play games. That's why they say people from other countries are 4 times more likely to become millionaires in America than natural born Americans, because they come with a vision, a dream, and a plan. And so they come to get to work. And so she was in school getting an education, going to be a doctor. Her 2 sisters, one is about to be a lawyer and the other was about to be a doctor. That's how she was raised, and I had derailed her path. And so I thought that, hey, I can do what I want to do, and now because your parents mad at you, I'm the only person you have. And she kind of told me, in a sense, where her actions never said anything out of her mouth other than I'm leaving. And her actions said everything else. And that is when I realized I had to grow and I had to change. And so a lot of men's ego will say, well, fine, you know, I'll co-parent, I'll pay child support, I'll see my kid on the weekends. But I was raised in a 2-parent home, and so I saw something different and I wanted to have that. And I honestly believe that sometimes you're just chosen. You're just chosen. When I look at my life and what's happening and what's going on, I feel like I was hand selected. Like it was nothing that I really did. It was favor. And my mom tells me all the time, she said, baby, you've been favored since you came out the womb. And so I honestly have to say, I don't think it's as much me as it is him. And me just being obedient and being in position and being willing, and everything else just being added. And so honestly, what I do, I don't want to do. I do not want to do it. I feel like Jesus, when he went to the mountaintop and he was asking God, can you pass this from me? Can somebody else take this? That's how I feel almost every day. Like, Lord, you got me going against my nature. I'm breaking every man law, every man code. I can't have no friends because they looking at me side-eyed. And I really don't meet any men who believe the way I believe. And I feel like the mindset came from he who called me. Because sometimes I have to battle with the way I love my wife and cater to my wife. And you know, we were up here we were in New York, and I have my security guard. I call him security guard, but he's, you know, like my best friend. He played offensive line for me in college, and I was a running back. And you know, he's a big guy, so I told him, man, you should do security. And then I have my barber with me because I don't have a hairline, so he has to keep my hairline together. And so we were just hanging out, and my wife was on my spirit. And I said, you know, she doesn't have, and I don't really have much money. And I said, you know, she doesn't have this brand called Go Yard. You know, she got the other brands, but she don't have Go Yard. And I Googled it, and they'll have stores, and they have no prices online. And we had to catch an Uber, ride to the store in New York. We go in there, and I'm like, I'm gonna spend like $200 to $400. This is what I'm saying. And the lady showed me the purse. This one was $1,000, and this one was $1,600. I was like, Lord. And I spent that $1,600. And it just was a pull that said to me, she's raising your children while you on the road. You gone for 2 weeks straight, and she don't get to see your face. Your security guard ain't even married, and he FaceTime his girlfriend more than you FaceTime your wife. So she don't even get to see you as much as boyfriends. Girlfriends get to see their boyfriend. And I said, man, your barber talking to his lady on the phone all day long. My wife sitting at home, lonely, raising my 2 sons because I got to work. And I say, you know what? She deserves it. And I could see their thoughts twirling in their head. Boy, you crazy, $1,600. Oh, that look like a grocery bag. And the lady pulled it out the thing, and it was folded in 3. It ain't even no strong leather. You know the tough plastic they give you when you go to the grocery store? That's what it was for $1,600. But I say, you know what? These other women got some Go Yard at the gym we work out, and my wife and keep saying she likes, so it's this pull. And so I say it's kind of like an out-of-body experience when you are a vessel. And I say that to say that every single person in here is a vessel. And maybe until today you've been running from your calling. Your calling may not be to talk to 3 million people online. It may be to mentor 5 little girls from the local middle school that you have access to. 5 little boys from the elementary school. Your calling may be to really invest in your child and spend the money for them to get a better education, or to get some piano lessons, or to be a gymnast. It may be for you to work a little extra so they can do a little more. And so I want you to think about that, and I say that to take it off myself and to remind you that if I could be called, anybody could be called. And I honestly believe that we all are called. And you got to recognize that. And when you read this book, I want you to think about the calling. And then relate it to yourself and say, well, how can I add my knowledge to the world? Whether it's mentoring somebody one-on-one, or whether it's writing a book, or doing an online course, whatever it may be. I want you to see the bigger message and understand that what you get out of Make It Work is not from me. It's through me, and it's for you, and bless somebody else with it. Any other questions? I'm going to take what time we start.
I have a question about exes. So, and sometimes you will be in a relationship and it will be terrible, like the dude is hitting you or y'all arguing all the time. And then sometimes you're in a relationship where the relationship can be pretty good. It's just that it's certain things that the reciprocity, like I'm running bath water, massaging feet, and then it's not reciprocated on the flip side. But everything else is lining up. We best friends, can talk about anything. Those relationships are a lot harder to leave because it's not cheating. It's not dishonesty. Everything's fine. It's just that it's not clicking. When you leave those type of relationships and you endeavor to move on, it's more difficult because it's not painful. It's just not right. So how do you go forth? Because everybody after that seems like they don't amount up to that. Because that guy was great. He just didn't run bath water. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. And you got tired of waiting for him to do that, you know, or tired of him committing. So is your book touching on like validating the next relationship? Because it might not be, they might do a lot of that stuff, but then they don't add up financially. They don't add up to your criteria going forward. So how do you manage that?
My book might be telling you to go back and make it work. Because you talk about the next, you need your ex back. And this what I'll tell you is no relationship clicks because it's 2 human beings. So it's never going to click in the sense of, if I want to point out something about my wife, I can do that all day long. If she want to point out something about me, she can do that all day long. It's never going to click. So this is what I break it down to. Am I being abused? Am I being cheated on? If you're not being abused, and understand abuse can be physical, verbal, emotional, financial, social, several types of abuse. But if you're not being abused and you're not being cheated on, you have to make that relationship work. No matter how looks challenged they are, does not matter what bath they won't run, what foot they won't massage, you have something that you can build on. Because even with my wife not having a job, she cooked once a month. Now this on camera. Lord, don't let us see this. She cooked once a month. And as the Bible say, they came together. You know what come together mean? Come together might be 4 times a month. one time a week. And I'm all around the country, 100% faithful. Bringing home the bacon. So I could easily say, baby, at least you could cook me a meal now. At least you could make me a meal. Just a sloppy Joe and some tater tots. You ain't got to throw down collard greens and all of that. But, so if I wanted to complain, I can complain. But this is what I say. Is she cheating on me? No. Because if she was, I'd have did enough of that, I'd be able to tell. And not on her, but before her. Is she disrespecting me? Calling me out of my name? Yelling, screaming, cursing, starting fights? No. Can I trust her? Yes. So the core things are there. And that means more to me than a woman who's going to cook every day and slide from poles and all of that, but I can't trust her. She going to be stealing money, hiding money, buying stuff on the side, not wanting to talk about it, loaning all of friends and family money, and talking to her ex-boyfriend. So I say that to say, and for everybody in here, understand this. Perfection is what you make it. My relationship is perfect because I define perfection. So the way you look at it, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. When you stop counting what you don't have and you count everything that your partner does have, now you realize how blessed you are. So although my wife comes together 4 times a month, sometimes 2 times in a month, but the reason why is because we talk to each other till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. She gets up at 5 o'clock. So she sleeps 4 hours a night. That right there already cutting off a lifespan. She running off 4 hours of sleep. Then she driving an hour to school to drop the boys off, get them all ready. Then she going to work out on no energy. So her body not even responding to the workout. I'm spending $600 a month for her to go through the motions. And then she drive home another hour, get home, in home for a couple of minutes, trying to do some laundry or whatever, and then got to leave again and drive an hour to get the boys again, drive back home another hour. So she giving 4 hours of her life a day on the road. Driving make you tired. Working out with no energy make you tired. So now by the time she gets home, now my son, who is a straight A, no A- student, has homework. She's his teacher. So she has to come with no energy and teach him what the teachers are not teaching him. And whatever they're teaching him, she has to double it. So he's the only boy in the 6th grade with straight A's, no A-minuses. Out of 60 students, he's one of 4 with straight A's, no A-minuses. So I say to myself, I would rather have a son with straight A's and no A-minuses, who the teachers say we've never seen a kid who is great at everything, and we love his love for God. I say I would rather have that than a woman who sleeps with me every day and cooks for me every day. And so you have to look at your blessings. And you got to say, I would rather have a man who is faithful to me and not verbally, physically, or emotionally abusive, but does not run my bathwater, does not touch my feet, does not massage my shoulders, does not even say, I love you, but he shows he loves you. So that is why, and right there what you said, that is the sole reason that you would be single. And guess what? If you let that person go and you go back, now they may resent you so much they don't even want you. Because now you hurt them, and now the next person after you, they hurting them because you done ruined their goodness. And so you got to think about that, because if you attracted that one time, you probably can attract it again, but you will attract it again and repel it on the first date because of what you already made up in your mind from that relationship. So Change what you're looking at. Change the way you look at it. One more question, or two more questions. I'm going to go here and then come here.
The Bible says, husbands love your wives as Christ loved the church. I'm a Christian, I go by that. Do you feel like, in your opinion, men in general are afraid of being that vulnerable?
Yes, I do.
Yes. 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 And I don't think, in general, I don't think we draw the parallel between Christ's love and our love. And to be honest with you, that scripture is really what changed my life. Because when I really drew the parallel and I said, wow, that type of love is a sacrificial love. That is a love that is giving, forgiving, compassionate, gracious, selfless, understanding. And so when I really thought about that, I'm like, that is a perfect love. That is a love that even when we hurt, it heals. And so I say, if that's my call as a man, and I accept that call, what woman won't love me? That love will turn a savage into a saint. That love will turn a woman who hates herself into a woman full of self-love. So when I started to love like that, every broken part of my wife was healed. And then what happened is, when she received that love, she took me from good to great. Because a woman's love is greater than a man's love. And so you have to make sure, every woman in here, that when you meet a man and you talk to this man, that he understands that he must be in submission to God. That he must understand his call and the order. And if he doesn't understand that something in the world is bigger than him, then he won't be capable of love, of pure love. Because if he thinks he is the biggest and he has to answer to no one, then nothing will hold him accountable. And a woman can't hold a man accountable. It has to be an inner feeling. I tell my wife all the time, I am not faithful to you. I'm faithful to him. Because he sees what you can't see. And my favor comes from him, not from you. And so I let her know, you don't ever have to question me. You don't ever have to be insecure. You don't ever have to worry. Just watch my lifestyle. And if you see the way I live, and you know who I'm living for, then you know I will be faithful to you, whether I'm in front of you or 1,000 hours away. And if you can make sure that the man in your life understands his role in the universe, his position, then you're that much safer